Oh, I hate that. Welcome to Study Hall, everybody. Okay. Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, but you haven't introduced me, so I didn't want to jump
Oh, okay.
in.
I said I was the most prepared for any study hall, more prepared tonight. Oh, and now I'm hearing echoing. There we go. Okay. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay.
If you're hearing echo, then the problem's
No,
probably
you're hearing echo because I had it playing on the YouTube. Okay. All right. But I like to look over. See, this is all new to me. Got a new computer. I got a new Mac. My sister got me some Legend of Zelda decals for it.
Right there.
What?
There's your problem. You got a Mac.
I know the eternal fight between Mac users and everybody else. Anyway, okay.
I'm a Mac and I'm a PC.
Yes, I got the gold Mac and I have Legend of Zelda decals on the back. That's a game thing. Anyway, okay. All right. Anyway, okay. Welcome everybody to Study Hall. Let's start this over. Okay. Netters Network. Actually, you probably sent me a list of who was first.
I did send you a list of who was first, and the first person I saw was Daniel Heron. He has a tendency of coming in early, saying hi with every intention of joining the being here with us, but then he's like, but I might just fall asleep before you guys get going. So.
Of course. I've been very bad about the Saturday night rewatches lately, but I try to pop in toward the end if I can at least. But yeah. Let's see. We got Netters Network. Welcome. Hi, Nanette. Brian Martin, back to the drawing board. Matthew Flynn. Melissa Harris.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Did I miss anybody else? Daniel Herons, evening all. He's back. Casey Scott, Leia Plus Size. Jedi Masters Utopia. Well, welcome everybody. And I hopefully I didn't miss anybody.
You have a great collection of people here. All the usual suspects and a few that aren't here as often as I would like. And I miss you when you're not here, guys. I really do.
You can always catch us later. I am going to try to make some clip videos this week as well. We can also watch the stream later.
And I've noticed that not enough YouTubers do this. Everyone says, click subscribe and thumbs up and blah, blah, blah. Comments are great. If you don't catch us live, comments that get a conversation going generate all kinds of traffic on these videos. And that gets them rewatched by other people. That's actually, I think, better for the, in quotes, algorithms sometimes than hitting like.
Okay. And that's a good point. When next time someone makes a comment, I will spur on a conversation instead of just saying thanks. Okay.
I like to see some YouTubers like to, someone says something negative and they block it or whatever, and they block the person. I'm like, no, I'll needle them. I'll get if I can, I'll get an argument. I really pushed on some of the professor's videos to get people all riled up because that just keeps the conversation going. And then he gets more and more and more views and more likes and dislikes and more engagement. And,
ask me what I'm sipping.
What you sipping on?
I got a Strombo hard cider.
Nice.
Old apple. Okay. You used to get picked on for watching these. I used to argue, though, these technically have more alcohol in them than beer. But anyway, okay.
Very likely. Now, you haven't taken an antihistamine, have you? Okay. Looks like I'll be running the show tonight, guys.
Anyway, we'll see. There was a complaint later on that they made it too sweet. That it used to have more of a tart flavor, but we'll see how it goes. These are left over from New Year's.
Are you talking about by people that historically drank the drink and felt the taste?
Yes, I used to. I haven't drunk. I should know this. I'm an English major, but in years I haven't had one in years. There you go. We got a lot of stories to cover tonight.
Yep. Well, wait a minute. I want to tell people what I'm sipping on. I'm sipping on a Rockstar energy drink because I want to stay awake in case this ding dong falls asleep and I have to close out the show. But I am following it up with a lemonade too. So
lemonade is nice. Last night I took 2 Benadryl and like halfway through the stream I'm like,
Brian Martin making us both look bad, being all like healthy and junk.
Actually, I should remind me when I'm done with these, I should grab a water for myself. But anyway, okay. But we have a lot of news. Okay, we have a lot of news.
The first thing that goes.
We have a lot of news stories to cover tonight.
Translation. Shut up, Troy. We need to get to the show.
No, I mean, well, no, we got a couple minutes. Say how was your New Year's? Huh?
My New Year's, well, it was great. I mean, I think a lot of people that have followed me and heard my streams over the past couple of years probably know that Nanette and I don't usually go anywhere for New Year's anyway. I don't think in the quarter of a century that we've been married, we've actually done anything for New Year, just because we tend to be of the mindset, slick, icy roads, people out there drinking. Maybe let's just stay home and see in the new year just the two of us. And sometimes those are the best. So this year, when everyone is forced to be like that, no problem. We just don't have people, being and mowing and arguing about, oh, you people are antisocial, you should come out and party with us. Yeah, tell me that this year. So okay. Yeah, basically it was a great, although we didn't get to have anyone over for Christmas and Thanksgiving, we had exactly the kind of New Year's that we've always had, so that was good.
Cool. And you did It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes, and so we did, and we did the countdown, for it actually went really well. I wasn't sure how the timing was going to go, but we paused the movie so that we could do a countdown over on the East Coast, and then we went back and finished up the movie and did the last minute talk, and then did another countdown for the Central time zone, and then finished off the show. It worked out perfectly, in my opinion. I liked that. I thought that was great.
Cool.
And what it comes down to is it's kind of like what Al says about the rewatches on Saturdays. It feels like it's just hanging out with friends, when you can't get together. So I am, give you a peek to the end of the show. I am planning to do I don't know what, some sort of a live stream on Friday for my birthday. So anyone that wants to come and hang out with me on my birthday, 9:00 Central, 10 Eastern. I don't know if we'll do a rewatch or if we'll just, BS and talk, and I don't know, but it's my birthday. I'll probably have a couple drinks in me, a little bit of cherry pie, and, we can all celebrate together.
Cool. Well, I look forward to that. I'll try and stop by if I can as well.
Good.
All right. And let me see if I can post this headline. Hold on. Is that showing up? Okay, our first story of the night. If Godzilla versus King Kong goes to HBO Max, Legendary wants $250 million from Warner Brothers.
Yeah. And I got to say, I was very pleased with the thumbnail I put together for this particular one. King Kong as Legendary punching Godzilla as Warner Brothers. I thought that was kind of clever. Yeah, but talk about the streaming wars. This is another indicator that HBO Max did not, and Warner Brothers did not think this through. This was obviously a very reactionary thing. We were speculating on this over the past couple of weeks, saying everybody in the industry was like, what? And nobody has been happy with them, from the actors to the competing industry. But now Legendary is very, very upset with them and saying, look, you've made a unilateral decision that is directly cutting into what is potentially our profits and what we formed an agreement with you based on. We'll take you to court if we have to.
It sounds like they want what they put into it, maybe more. I'm not sure.
I mean, shocking. I know. I mean, who in business thinks that way, right? Who thinks that business is about making money? I mean, I thought it was all about messaging and SJWing, but apparently, some people actually want to make their investment back.
Think about Godzilla alone. You have to get the rights to do a Godzilla movie. Warner Brothers, I don't think, owns Godzilla. I mean, that's Toho, I believe, in Japan.
Exactly. And we talked about kind of a similar parallel kind of issues last week and the week before when we were talking about James Bond. It's very complicated. Who owns the rights, who licenses, who has distribution rights, and all that kind of stuff. But the fact is that you don't even have to untangle that to understand there's a lot of fingers in the pot, and they all are expecting to get something out of it. And if you cut off any of them from their profits, they're going to get angry and they're going to come after you. That's just how business works. Surprise, AT&T, you guys should know that. And again, I can't say that this is a huge surprise to me, but we'll see what happens with it going forward.
Yeah, I do have some quotes from this article. It was understood that the decision would lead to massive losses in box office earnings, and the only gain would be in terms of new subscribers for HBO Max.
Yeah, and here's another problem with that. I think that the guys over on Midnight's Edge probably said this. I don't know. I don't have an original thought in my head. I steal from everybody else, and I just assume that everything that I hear comes from them. So we'll attribute it to them.
Oh my goodness.
One of the things they pointed out is that, this is not like Hollywood, right? Releasing general distribution in the theaters, right? Because if you want to get more and more and more profit, your hope is to get more and more and more audience. When you're dealing with a streaming service, there's only so many people with TVs out there in your, field that you can reach. Number one, these streaming services aren't global. These are, United States and a few other countries, maybe. And then you have to form deals with other countries in order to distribute those movies. And once you have a certain number of viewership, you can't double it year after year after year. It doesn't work that way. It's not possible. You eventually max out. And now you have your subscriber base, and the best you can hope is to keep them. So that's what's going to be directly affecting the studios right now. You cannot do huge, big, multi-million-dollar films with these overinflated price tags for the stars, and expect to make that back on your, $25 a month per person per household. It's not going to work, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm thinking that this is it sounds like they're trying to scam these studios they're working with. That's what it sounds like to me, but I don't know. I'm probably oversimplifying that. But I like this. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
I think in the short term, what it comes down to is, and this would be a different argument if this was a much smaller budget film, that was made specifically for the streaming service, right? I would say if things go the way they're going, in about 3-4 years, when everything is being made specifically for the streaming services, all those agreements are going to be in place up front, and we won't have these kind of problems. But we're suffering the aftershocks of films that were made on big budgets, expected to go to theaters. And if you put them on your streaming service, up front you're taking a huge loss. And if you're going to do that, then all your creditors need to be in on it and agree to it and agree to take a loss. If they don't, and you make a unilateral decision for them, that would be like me going to the bank and saying, I'm sorry, I can't afford to pay my mortgage this year. I'm out of work. Well, that's too bad. We're foreclosing on you. Instead of going to them and saying, in the next couple months, I might have some problems. Can we renegotiate? And they say, yeah, we'll stretch it out, whatever. We'll tack the interest.
You mean work with them and figure out a strategy with them? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. I'm just putting it in terms of, because you know what? I've always contended, because I talk a lot about economics here, right? We talk about the business end of things. We talk about economics. You don't need a huge degree in economics to understand these very simple things. What's true for you, if you live at home with your parents and you make an allowance and you have a part-time job, or you are a homeowner and you're paying on a mortgage, or you're a big multinational company, business works the same way. You go into debt. If you can't pay your debt back, someone's going to foreclose on you. You're going to lose your shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. So just making analogies that I think you can absolutely, cycle up to the big scale. Anyway, that's just my take on it all.
Oh, here's a Back to the Drawing Board as a comment. It feels very much like Warner Brothers is gambling that theaters will not recover for 5 years or so, if they recover at all, and they're trying to recoup their losses.
So Yes, that's one possibility. The other possibility is they are actually pushing for that outcome because let's face it, if they force the industry to go this route, that's going to cause that to happen. You know, I mean, it's kind of a chicken and egg kind of thing, right? Are they trying to be the chicken? Are they trying to be the egg? Doesn't matter. They've made their decision. But I think most people in the industry, I'm gonna be conservative and generous and say that they're being hopeful that things are going to bounce back and that theaters are going to reopen and whatnot. But I think what's more realistic is they're just deluding themselves. Because I've heard so many people from Tom Hanks to so many others saying, oh, yeah, they'll be coming back. It'll be fine. Because they're still operating on the same wavelength they were a year ago when we were told, oh, we're just going to be closed up for a week to lower the lower the curve or whatever, and blah, 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 blah. And then it was, no, that's just going to be a couple months until we have a vaccine, and then everything will go back to normal. And then it was, I don't know. They keep moving the goalposts, but people keep believing this crap. I don't know how stupid you have to be to not realize that they're moving the goalposts and start saying, hey, wait a minute. But no, I've come to realize that a lot of people in Hollywood are just effing stupid. And they honestly do believe that everything's going to be hunky-dory and fine, and they're going to be able to continue to make their millions and millions of dollars per movie and keep their overinflated mansions, you know, and whatnot. Of course, Tom Hanks has already moved out of the country to avoid taxes, so screw him.
Oh, really? I thought he moved to Texas. Never mind. All right.
No, he moved to Greece.
Oh, really? Yep. Oh, my goodness. Okay. I like this quote, though. It would be even more of a loss for Warner to pony up an extra $250 million to Legendary, especially for a movie that is the fourth in a franchise that has not been particularly well received so far. The previous movie in the series, Godzilla King of Monsters, opened to mixed reviews and was a box office disappointment, grossing $386 million worldwide against a budget between 170 to 200 million.
Damn it, Boomer, you're going to get me off on another tangent here. But this is another problem that we have with our franchises. People need to understand that they are a little bit niche, okay? Star Trek fans are Star Trek fans, okay? And the general audience, not real into it. And if you're trying to woo the general audience, you're going to lose the Star Trek fans. And that and swap out Star Trek for Star Wars, for Doctor Who, for Kong and Kaiju. I don't care what you're talking about. You have your fans, you have your general audiences, and you might be able to woo some of the general audience, but that's never going to be your bread and butter. And as long as you go chasing after that, you're going to lose the diehard fans and you're going to lose the franchise. That's true across the board. Absolutely.
Now, they said there was a big problem, though, even how they marketed this series. People argue that when the Kong Skull Island movie came out, people didn't know it was part of the Godzilla franchise or series. They thought it was like a sequel to the Peter Jackson movie. There was a lot of confusion when that came out.
Yeah, and I kind of blame their marketing on that. I say blame. I don't actually think this is a problem, to be honest with you. I think this is one area where ambiguity works in their favor. Yes, they wanted it to be ambiguous. They wanted people that were in the know, the fans of that kaiju thing, to be aware of it, but they also wanted the general audience that all loved, you know, the Peter Jackson Kong to think of it that way. And in a way, if you really pick it apart, the Easter eggs do imply that it was both, right?
Okay.
It was clearly part of that shared universe with Godzilla, but it makes references that definitely touch on Peter Jackson, and even to some extent the 76
the one with Jessica Lange and Jeff Bridges.
Lange, yes, absolutely. Yes, that one too.
Yeah.
There were definitely and yes, they were just Easter eggs. You could say that doesn't necessarily put them in the same universe or anything, but certainly was their way of trying to capitalize on all fans of everything. That's the way to do it. That's how you do something like that.
Like when you see the actress that played the original Lois Lane on Superman television series show up in Superman 79. you know, and in a cameo, you know,
Let's
that sort
not
of
muddy
thing.
these waters.
What?
We'll get to Warner Brothers and DC.
Okay, okay. But does anyone know if it plus does anybody know if a trailer for Khan versus Zilla came out? No.
I'm sorry, I don't know that.
I haven't seen it. And
unfortunately, the person who would be best to posit that question to, I don't see him in the stream, is
Big Al.
Big Al. Yeah.
I saw him earlier. He did pop in to say hi. Back to the drawing board says Hollywood has banked hard on their social power and cultural influence. They're acting like it's permanent, and it's not. It's very fragile, and they haven't managed it well. I couldn't say it better myself. That's yeah.
I would go even further than that. Back to the drawing board, and I would say that they are operating under the same foolish, prideful arrogance that big business has for so many years. They operate under the too big to fail model. And that hits you hard when you find out that that is not true. There is no such thing as too big to fail.
Mm-hmm.
You
know? Yeah, well, I thought we learned that lesson, but apparently we keep.
Well, no, because apparently we have to keep rewriting history. We're not allowed to learn from history, right?
Yeah.
We keep forgetting, so we'll never learn.
Should I make fun of the article a little bit? There's a final line I have to repeat.
Yeah, go for it.
The upcoming Godzilla vs. Kong promises state-of-the-art special effects and CGI that will finally be able to do justice to the true scope of a brawl between the giant ape and the giant lizard.
Well,
and he's not a lizard. Of course, was he in that the Roland Emmerich movie?
Yeah. He was literally an iguana that got, All
right. I'm not going to attack. Maybe the writer that's in like a little movie they've seen. I'll cut them a little slack. But I was a little he's a dinosaur. Okay, right? Radioactive dinosaur.
What does
Godzilla?
Yeah, I mean, isn't that?
I don't know, or maybe it's something else.
Dinosaur. Doesn't that actually mean lizard?
Whatever
means lizard. So
whatever. Anyway,
they are reptiles, are they not? I mean,
okay. What was my comments on this? Warner Media seems to be bleeding money right now. Is there any evidence that these movie exclusives are even leading to increased subscription rates for HBO Max?
Well, and going back to what I had said before, let's give them the best case scenario, and let's say that people are clamoring to subscribe to HBO Max because they absolutely desperately want to see Kong versus Godzilla and the Snyder Cut, which is not going to happen, by the way. We'll talk about that in a minute. And Wonder Woman 1984. They absolutely have to see those movies, so they're all just scrambling to subscribe. Again, we have a very limited number of people in the country with TVs and streamability. So unless you max out, you're never going to have the revenue that you need. So, but the fact is, we all know that that's best case scenario. And no one lives in a perfect world. Hollywood thinks they do, but they don't.
Okay.
So Big Al, thank you so much for being here, man. Because you're our subject matter expert on this. Yeah, Warner Brothers is holding on to the Godzilla versus Kong trailer exactly because I suspect, I don't know if this is true or not, but if I was in their position, I'd be going, yeah, let's hold on to the hype train until we know exactly what we're doing and how, especially now that we're getting sued. That might change what they're doing, but marketing has to know what route they want to go before they can release a trailer.
I don't know. You know what suppressed me though? This is one of the movies I was actually looking forward to seeing. I mean, this is who doesn't want to see King Kong versus Godzilla? This is the situation that the fans are in, right? There's a lot of movies that are in the can that we are dying for and waiting for. Ghostbusters, this Dune, but do you want it coming out on stream and knowing that by taking such a huge loss, that negates the possibility of a sequel? That's definitely not what you want for Dune, because Dune is only half a story to begin with. If we don't get a sequel, we don't get the whole story.
So a lot of fans are going, you wait as long as you need to wait. We want that out in theaters, and we want to make it successful.
Yeah.
So that is the hammer that's waiting to fall. They have to decide what they're going to do.
Okay.
Godzillasaurus. Yes, exactly.
Actually, back to the drum board. Like, I'm not a kaiju expert. Isn't Godzilla a creature beyond pretty petty scientific classification?
Well, that's a good
yes,
point.
But he's a dinosaur.
It almost falls into the Lovecraftian, level.
I know.
Non-earth based type creature. So that's probably true. I mean, you don't say that Cthulhu is, octopoid. It's something else entirely.
That'll be the big villain in Aquaman too. I'm kidding. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Anyway, and the other point is having these movies premiere on the small screen, lessening their impact on the cultural landscape. I was thinking this comes into what we're going to be talking about soon with Wonder Woman 84, but I'm just wondering, are people going to think movies are as big a deal if they only premiere on streaming? I mean, think about years past, like when E.T., go to the movie theater to see E.T. or The Matrix or any of these other movies that come out over the years. If you just had access to them at home on your TV, would it be as big a deal? I don't know.
Well,
I guess that remains to be seen. I don't know.
I would say that maybe not initially. Initially, it becomes, oh, that's right, that got released, didn't it? Yeah, I guess I'll watch that, whereas I think in time it will become, if this is how it's being released and that's something you're looking forward to, yeah, you're waiting on that play button or whatever the equivalent is. But that's an excellent point. If you're sitting there waiting to play it, you've already given them your money, whether you see it or not. I mean, if I was subscribing to HBO Max right now, I would not have seen Wonder Woman, but they would still have my money. So that's another point that I'm getting at. Your content versus your subscription service, Kind
of like paying to go see Captain Marvel and then not going into the theater, which I'm sure many people did.
So I spend, I don't know, somebody tell me what HBO Max costs per month, but let's say it's $25 a month. That's $25 for me and Nanette. Okay. So you've already diluted my subscription, okay, to say $12 each, $12.50 each. Okay. We both watch Wonder Woman once. Okay. That's about the same value as going to the theater to see it. However, when you count, ticket costs and whatnot. But then you take into account that there's so many other movies that I get to watch on HBO Max, content they have to pay for and get out there, costing them thousands to millions of dollars. Is my $25 a month really worth it? See the problem there?
I don't think so, unless I don't even know how any of this translates. That's my whole thing.
I don't think these dingbats, over at AT&T Warner Brothers do either.
That's why I think they're trying to pull a fast one on some of these companies. But anyway, what's the next story we're doing? The Wonder Woman 3 in jeopardy?
Yeah. Let's go to it. So, Patty Jenkins is a little bit concerned about Wonder Woman 3. Shocker, surprise. What do you call it? The Rotten Tomatoes has already dropped. The bottom is pretty much dropped out of it. The fans don't like it. The people, the reviewers that aren't shills don't like it. I have yet to hear anything positive about it. And I said last week, when literally 3 days after it was released, they were already saying there was going to be a Wonder Woman 3. I said, that is the biggest load of crap I've ever heard. That means they'd already decided there was going to be a Wonder Woman 3 before they released it. Now what I'm hearing is, no, not really. There's going to be a Wonder Woman 3, just like there was going to be a a Rian Johnson trilogy, and just like there was going to be a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek, and just like all the other things that they announced to get hype going, but never actually come to pass. Because you're still subject to how much money did the last movie make. If it didn't do well and you can't get investors, you won't be able to put the budget together to make the movie, so it's never going to happen. So Patty Jenkins being concerned, that means she's getting her head out of her ass and using her brains a little bit.
Yeah, what was it? Wonder Woman director Patty Jenkins has shared her fears if theaters continue to suffer as a result of the ongoing lockdowns. A third film featuring the Amazon princess may never be produced. This is her quote. I know that I'd love to do the third one if the circumstances were right and there was still a theatrical model possible, she noted.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would if there wasn't. But then she goes on to say, this was interesting. She further discussed this roadblock on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast, where she revealed, though Jeff Johns and herself have the story for the third Wonder Woman sequel worked out, the world is not in the right place for their script. And she's like, I don't think I'm doing it next. And so I have to sort of wait and see where we are in the world, Jenkins said, though she did not specify whether she was speaking socio-politically or economically.
I'm sure that the two go hand in hand, but ultimately it doesn't matter because I think it misses a very, very crucial piece that she's too arrogant, and most people in Hollywood are too arrogant to acknowledge. Okay. She effed up. She done effed up big time. Okay. When you look at the success of the first Wonder Woman movie and the failure of Wonder Woman 84, you see a lot of things very clearly. Okay. You can blame it on the coof. You can blame it on streaming. You could blame it on China. You can blame it on whatever you want to blame it on, but you can't blame the reviews on any of those things, because whether you saw it in a theater or you saw it in your own home, you watched it and you either enjoyed it or you didn't, and you have your reasons why. And if Wonder Woman, the first one was so good, what's different? And I'll pose that question to you. This isn't rhetorical. What's different between the first Wonder Woman movie and the current Wonder Woman movie?
It takes place in the 80s.
Well, okay, yes. But honestly, that's a minor thing. From a more fundamental story craft level, what was different? The writers. Who were the writers for the first movie?
Oh, yeah. They said that Patty Jenkins had a big hand in the writing of this one.
Yes. She kind of took charge. Congratulations. Empowering the woman, letting her take charge. It does nothing for your cause if she fails, and she did. And, everyone says, well, Jeff Johns. What did Jeff Johns actually contribute? Okay. They both have some writing credit there, but I think the only thing Jeff Johns provided was the gold armor and, the bad guy, is a Wonder Woman villain from the comics, and the origin story basically for Cheetah. I mean, he provided her with the comic book information. She crafted the story and she directed it and she oversaw it. So really everything that went to crap on this movie that people are complaining about is all on her. She was the director and writer.
Do you think they hired the effects people that worked on the Cats movie to do the Cheetah effects for this one?
I said this about Cats, and I'm going to say it about this too. If that was the worst problem that it had going for it, then I'd say they were doing pretty well. But that's not the worst thing about this movie. And bad special effects, look at classic Doctor Who. Okay.
Yeah, that's true.
Those were horrible special effects, but they were awesome stories. Now we have excellent special effects and shit stories. If you can't put a story together, no amount of good special effects is going to save it. And if the story is good, bad special effects isn't going to hurt it that bad.
Yeah, I know. I remember they made a point about the new series. How they even went to scope widescreen for it. Like the cinematography is better than it's ever been, but they were like arguing that the show itself is just. Well, we'll get to Doctor Who later.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm trying to think if there was anything else though.
But
I don't think anyone's defending this movie at this point. I mean, actually, there are still people. That's the next article, isn't it? But
well, and then there's the quote from Yellow Flash where they were talking about Wonder Woman 3 will defeat the patriarchy. It's like, well, I don't know, because Wonder Woman 2 kind of crumbled under the patriarchy, right? I mean, if you've got a feminist message, Wonder Woman 2 definitely was not it. And you had Patty Jenkins in charge, so it's not like, you had some man that you could point to and say he doesn't know how to write for women. I mean, I was talking about fans and casual viewers and reviewers panning this movie, but the SJW crowd is panning this one too, and coming out and saying, your whole movie is about a woman who's been pining for, over almost 100 years over the death of a man. And all of her motivations in this movie are about that man. And it's like, yeah, that's not really very empowering if that's what your message is. Look, okay, I understand that our audience tends to be very much on the very middle of the road to conservative side when it comes to these SJW matters. But you can't escape the fact that Wonder Woman has always been about feminism. You go back to the beginning, and it was this intended to be this very empowering message for women, and that's what she was all about. Okay?
Yeah, I think the creator even said as much. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, he, nowadays people would call him a simp, but it doesn't matter, because in doing, and this is what we've always said, if you have a message that you want to get out there, at least give us a good story. And Wonder Woman has always been about good story, good hero. Okay, you got me. If that's what feminism is, I'm totally behind it. And then you undermine it by taking away her the first movie started it by buying into this whole New 52 origin, where instead of her being made from clay by one woman, by a mother, and then being imbued with spirit by all the females of the pantheon, and having no male input. I mean, how much more feminist could you be? Now, she's just a daughter of Zeus. Okay, well, that's a big ding against your feminist message, and now she's just, running around like your basic damsel whose only motivation is her love life. I mean, what could be less feminist? But yay, Patty Jenkins, I guess. I don't know what to say. I don't even know.
What you were saying though reminded me of when the Wonder Woman animated movie came out years ago, and there was a trailer for it, and I love this line from the trailer. Some heroes are made, others are born. Okay, and right. Wonder Woman's the born hero, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I would argue Green Lantern is a chosen hero, which I thought was interesting. But okay,
yeah, exactly. I just. This whole thing has got me so frustrated, but I laugh because I see this and it's like, this is the ultimate failure of the Snyderverse, right? I mean, this is, in fact, I love when I look at the Rotten Tomato scores and I look at the box office and I look at everything. This movie is a new low for the Snyderverse. Okay. It's actually lower now than Suicide Squad. That's how bad it is.
I have to admit, I'm not going to pay money for it, but I'm tempted to watch it at some point because it just strikes me as a train wreck, and I'm curious.
So many people have been saying it was 2.5 hours.
Oh,
and there was still story missing from it. Like there was setups that went nowhere, and there was payoffs that had no setup. It was poorly edited. And I'm like, fine, it was poorly edited. That means it was poorly directed and it was poorly written. And all of that falls on I almost said Kathleen Kennedy, on Patty Jenkins' shoulders.
Well, speaking of which, though, Patty Jenkins is directing the next Star Wars film, and I am worried. Says Schooner Tuna.
I absolutely will not be watching it. We did have that in our notes, and we were planning to get to that. But she's already saying all the buzzes that have me, Captain Marveling this already. She's clearly going into it as a Kathleen Kennedy lackey, and I won't support it. I will not. This not my Rogue Squadron. That's all I have to say about it. But this could be another one of those things, just like Benioff and Weiss, who were all excited about leaving Game of Thrones to go on to Star Wars, so much so that they crapped all over Game of Thrones to get it done and gone so they can move on to Star Wars. And Disney goes, yeah, we're just looking at what you did with your last season. No, we're not giving you a trilogy.
They had the most popular television show in the world.
Yep.
They were in charge of it.
Yep.
And I can yell at HBO for a lot of things. I'm not yelling at them for that,
right?
Because they would have wanted the show to continue on for seasons. I think even the actors would have stayed on. I think nobody wanted to end, but
everybody was behind them on that. Even George Martin. He was like, I will write you detailed notes for every season if you'll just do the darn thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we can wrap this up in one season.
Oh, I don't even want to talk about it.
Season.
Yeah. And not only that, but we had to wait 2 years for it too. And it's like, oh, this is what we're getting.
And congratulations. Their careers are pretty much over.
They were going to do a spin-off series. They were going to do a prequel series. I'm not going to get into Game of Thrones on here because it's too much to talk about. We could probably do a whole stream.
It's all relevant, right? It kind of demonstrates to you what happens. And I see the same thing happening with Patty Jenkins. She had the most successful DC film, and then but she didn't write it. She just directed it. And yes, she got writing credit. But again, I would say to you, what did she really write? You understand how writing credits work. If you're a director and you're like, you know what? I want to change this one line. I don't think they would say that. Okay. So for example, when Lawrence Kasdan, writes, or George Lucas or whoever writes a line for Han Solo, and then from the director's seat, the director says, no, you know what? That improv that Harrison Ford just did, I like that. Let's go with that instead. That's a writing credit. You are the director, but you've changed a line of dialogue, so you get writing credit. That's how it happens. So Patty Jenkins may have changed a line or two in the previous movie. Congratulations, you got a writing credit. Now they think she can write a whole screenplay? Well, this is what happens. Congratulations. Now she wants to move on to Star Wars. Hey, Star Wars guys, maybe take a look at how she did on her last Wonder Woman movie and decide whether or not you really want another Kathleen Kennedy, who doesn't know what she's doing, but knows what she wants to do.
I did like the one line from the first Wonder Woman movie about the ice cream. You should be very proud, remember?
I did not see it. I have not seen a Snyderverse film.
It's not the worst. It has its issues too, and I'm not going to even tell you to watch it because I had issues with it too. But there was a great scene in it where like this guy saying ice cream, and then Steve Trevor buys her an ice cream, and she tries it and says, "You should be very proud for making this." Like this guy that he bought it from invented ice cream. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Like she doesn't. That was clever. I wish we had more of that.
Well, that's one of the commentaries that I've been hearing about this, the whole fish out of water thing, right? Where they tried to reverse it to make him the fish out of water. And it's like, you know what? It worked for Wonder Woman. It worked for Steve Rogers. Not really working here for Steve Trevor.
No.
I just realized they're both named Steve.
We had another article that you sent. Wonder Woman 1984 is under fire for offensive Arab depictions.
Yes. And in the sense of, what you get here is not always going to be what you're getting anywhere else. I am going to defend the, in quotes, social justice warriors on this one.
Okay.
Because everyone is so sensitive about things. Oh, people are getting offended. Oh, you're just too sensitive. From what I have seen of Wonder Woman 84, it was pretty offensive. You know,
Right.
if I was of Middle Eastern descent and saw this, and especially if I was of the Muslim faith, yeah, I'd be pretty darn bothered by what they did in this movie.
Huh.
And these articles that are coming out saying, oh, everything has to be perfect, you know, in the Middle East, and you know, we have to not offend. No, that's not what it's about. You can be realistic and depict, you know, political situations and so on and so forth, and acknowledge that things aren't perfect over there. But you don't have to be racist about it. You don't have to, you know, just like you don't have to make every man an idiot or a villain. You also don't need to do the same to every Muslim,
Right.
and person of Middle Eastern descent. They don't all have to be the villains, and they don't all have to be jihadists. Okay. That is pretty racist. Okay.
Yeah, I had a comment here. Hollywood does tend to stereotype groups of men, and I make a point about this too. Right now, it's very fashionable, always portraying Eastern European men as villains.
Yep.
In a thing,
Exactly.
and I don't mind that every so often, because of course there are, you know, you're going to get bad men from every walk of life, but it seems
but they
like
need
it's
to be
always
the hero too sometimes.
Yes, exactly. You know,
and yeah, so, and that's what it comes down to. I mean, you can't make every single Muslim or Middle Eastern person a villain and never have one of them be sympathetic. And I'll go even one further. I, again, did not see this movie, but I did read a commentary by, or hear, I should say, I didn't read it, I heard it. Muslim individual pointed out that there's one scene in the movie where there is, I guess it's a cab or something, and there's a Middle Eastern driver, and there's a fight or something like that.
Right.
And I guess it was Steve slaps the whatever was dangling from the rear view mirror out of the car. And what that was, what's dangling is in Arabic, the name of Muhammad and Allah.
Oh, you're kidding me.
And he slaps it out of the car. And it's like, most people that saw this had no idea what that was, didn't think twice about it. But any Muslim who sees that knows exactly what that is. And that would be analogous to if there was a cross hanging there, you know, and he's blaspheming a cross. You know, it's like, you went out of your way to be offensive. Okay. Because remember, the inside of this cab was created by the people making this movie. They didn't just ask somebody to borrow their cab, you know? So that item that was hanging there was put there by someone to intentionally do that. And then he was directed to do what he did. Oh, you have to go out of your way to be offensive. And there's a problem there. You see what I'm saying?
No, definitely. I mean, I didn't even realize that happened in that movie.
Exactly. And most people didn't. Most people that aren't Muslim wouldn't know this. So I'm saying that we have to be intellectually honest here. Mm-hmm. If we are offended as men, or we are offended as Christians, or just as reasonable people who think people need to be treated fairly, then let's be intellectually honest when someone of Arab or Middle Eastern or Muslim descent says they are offended by this, and not say, oh, you're being overly sensitive. No. Let's be objective here. Let's listen to what they have to say and then go, yeah, that's pretty sucky. Mm-hmm. You know?
And it's kind of like, too, you know, I mean, we've had a lot of defacement of churches in this country in recent months, too. And, you know, leave the things that are sacred out of this. Okay. I mean, I think we can respect what people find sacred. Okay.
Exactly. Just because you may not have a faith, just because it's not the faith you happen to have.
Right.
You know, because you know what? Next week it could be your faith or your lack of faith or whatever it is, or your maleness or your whatever your ideology is. Okay. Let's start being intellectually honest and stand up for each other a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think
And by the same token, I just want to point out, Leia plus size, you are a huge encourager. I love seeing you you're like a cheerleader, being in the stream. I super appreciate your support, but we need more of that. We need to be that.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking earlier though about who you might have picked for Wonder Woman. I didn't want to forget to bring that up.
Oh, yeah. So
now, I do like Gal Gadot. So
I do too.
Okay.
And so
I think of who they could have picked.
Peek behind the curtain. We were talking backstage, and I was talking about Gal Gadot. Gal Gadot. Yes, that's how she pronounces it. How she, there was all this dust up about her being cast as Wonder Woman, and as I was working on the thumbnail for tonight, I necessarily had to look through some pictures of Gal Gadot from her modeling days. She's a very attractive woman, and she definitely has that Wonder Woman look. I think she was well cast, but a better casting, in my opinion, I just saw for the first time last night, Haywire. Let me tell you, Gina Carano would have made an excellent Wonder Woman. Glad she didn't, because she would have been stuck in this dead end, franchise.
Man. Yeah,
but she would have made a better Wonder Woman. Just saying.
They made a point after Haywire came out. I heard critics saying, they were like, "Why isn't this? They need to make a Wonder Woman movie and cast Gina Carano in it." I mean, she does her own stunts. She could wail on most men and look good doing it. I mean, she doesn't lose any of her femininity, but I also wouldn't want to tangle with her in a fight. You know what I mean? So
I know it's like I could totally see wanting to go out on a date with her, and at the same time being not wanting to ever piss her off, because I know she could take me. You know what I mean?
Half the internet is in love with this woman right now, it seems too.
You know what? To be honest with you, I think it's more than 2/3 of the internet is in love with this woman. But the minority that doesn't like her is very loud.
Yeah, but
she is really winning over the fandom of Star Wars, let me tell you, because she knows how to treat the fandom.
She knows how to talk to people.
Yes.
Well, we'll get to that later.
As an aside, just a quick thing, I'm going to throw this out to you. Go check out Drunk 3PO's YouTube channel. He has been doing a bunch of interviews via Skype with her, or I don't know, whatever the internet way is that they do these things. Could be Zoom, I don't know. But he's doing all these interviews with her. And I got to tell you, if I find out 6 months from now that Gina Carano and Drunk 3PO are dating, I would not be at all surprised. Let me just say they have that much chemistry.
Cool. Well, more power to him, but
that's what I'm saying too. But at the same time, I feel like the kind of flirtiness she has with Drunk 3PO, I kind of see as kind of a meta flirting with the fandom, to be honest with you. I feel like she's flirting with all of us in a general sense, in a non-literal sense,
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I hate to say this. I think this is how a lot of Hollywood actresses used to be back in the old days. Now that I'm thinking about it.
Great insight, Boomer.
I've argued, like, people get upset with some of the anime fans, like they have their waifus and whatnot, but I'm thinking it's because the Hollywood actresses have been so ensconced at thinking that men, not all of them, but some of them, you know the ones I'm talking about. Sure. And I'm wondering if that has something to do with this. And I think Gina Carano doesn't have a problem being that way. Leia Plus says, I think Gina would have been great in Wonder Woman. I wish she was in the MCU. She would rock. She's not in. She is? Who is she in the MCU?
She was in I forget the name of the character because I don't know Marvel as well.
Well, she was in Deadpool.
She was in Deadpool. That's right.
Technically not part of the MCU. It would be funny if Disney is smart. I don't know that they are, but now that they own Fox, what if Deadpool can now cross into the MCU and start making fun of the MCU the way it made fun of the X-Men movies over at Fox?
They've already established that it is now part. Everything that was, they haven't started working it in yet because that's part of the next phase. But absolutely, Deadpool is part of the MCU now.
That'd be great. Yeah.
And she's under contract with Disney. She is part of Lucasfilm. So if they wanted her to do a movie over at the MCU, you better believe she totally could. Absolutely. And she's got the relationship with both the Marvel side and the Lucasfilm side now because she's so close with Jon Favreau. She totally could. Absolutely. That's also, though, why I don't see her doing anything with Warner Brothers anytime soon. She's in like Flynn where she's at. She's not going to, go doing something with other studios right now.
Oh, Gina's character is called Angel Dust, and apparently she's a villain. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But she was a very well-received villain. Absolutely.
But she was also in the Fast and the Furious movies where I think, again, she played a villain. So I think this is the first time they ever really playing a hero since Haywire. Yeah. Haywire is interesting because I think she beats up Michael Fassbender in that, right?
She beats up Michael Fassbender, yes, but she also beats the heck out of Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Oh, Ewan McGregor? Okay, yep. Yes.
In fact, she leaves him for dead. I'm sorry, spoiler if you haven't seen this 15-year-old movie. I mean,
Haywire is great fun. It's funny. I'm watching a lot of
smaller, on Tubi, so go check it out.
I'm watching a lot of smaller action type movies. I recently watched Wild Card with Jason Statham, which is a fun like Christmas movie if you want to see Jason Statham beating up a bunch of guys. And
I have everything. I haven't seen a lot of his movies, but every one that I've seen, I've liked.
You might like Wild Card. It's neat. You get to see him beating up mafia guys. Like you have these scary mafia guys that want to take him out because they're angry at him over something I'm not going to get into. Every time someone goes up to him and it looks threatening, he just wails on them. It's funny.
So, and this was the thing about Haywire. I mean, just when you think, oh my gosh, she's sunk. No, she. Sometimes it's a struggle, but I mean, she doesn't win her fights easily, but she ends up.
Well, they're realistic when they show the fights. Yeah, it's not. They look like real fights.
Yeah. Well, and let's face it, she is a real, honest to goodness fighter. She knows her stuff, so the fights are gonna look real if she has anything to do with it. Right?
Leia Plus Size says, if Gina was the Hulk, I would be excited about the show.
Yeah.
She-Hulk, not the Hulk. She-Hulk, yes. Perfect casting for She-Hulk, I would think.
That's what I thought too.
Okay.
Kind of blur things though. If you've already played a character in the MCU and then you play another character in the MCU, I don't know.
They're having the guy who played Cottonmouth play Blade, so I don't know.
I'll tell you what though. For as jazzed as I am about her, and I'd love to see her in other things, maybe it would be best that she stay where she is and not go wading into what I think is going to be the destruction of the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
I think the MCU is going to hurt them more than it helps them going forward.
Yeah,
but that's another topic.
All right, so now we're going to move on to DC, right?
Oh, plenty to say about DC. So
we're technically still on DC. Hold on.
We've been talking about a lot of cuts happening over at DC Comics. And again, we are specifically speaking about the comics now. We've had editors and executives and whatnot being let go. There have been 2-3 rounds. But this article coming out of, who was this? Bleeding Cool put this one out. They entitle it, "The week several DC Comics creators realized they were out of work." So let me paint a picture for you. Again, make an analogy. You work in an office or whatever, and you've been told everything's fine, everything's great, and then you hear, somewhere in the news or something that the location that you work at for your company is going to be closing up, and then you come into work and they're like, oh yeah, so we are going to be closing just like the news said, and your last day will be such and such, and congratulations. That is not how you want to find out you're losing your job. Well, that's kind of what happened to a lot of the DC Comics writers over there. They're working on titles and they have every reason to believe that they haven't heard, they're not working on anything. So they're getting ready with the planning for the next, say, 6 months or whatever. Then solicitations come out and they find out, oops, they're not on it. Their title isn't on it. that pretty much means you're out of work. Surprise!
Oh, man. This is from the Bleeding Fool. Yeah, the reduction in the number of titles as well as contracts being previously signed with creators who were meant to be working on the 5G line have meant that a number of creators without such contracts have been jettisoned from their titles.
Yep.
Okay.
And remember when we were all bitching and moaning about the new 52? And there was 52 titles, and we said they won't be able to sustain that. Well, they're currently down to 34 and falling. That is what the current solicitation shows, 34 titles. And there's still talk about there being less by summer. They are hemorrhaging titles, which means they're hemorrhaging talent over there. I say talent in inverted commas there.
Well, there have to be somebody. I mean, some of the comics over there sounded interesting. They weren't necessarily the standard superhero ones, though, because I think those have kind of gone to pop. But, yeah, Ethan Van Sciver had a quote about this. He said, well, here is another bit of news. DC cut their line down to, what was it, down to 52 comics. Oh, wait, that must be an older thing. Hold on. That or the person writing the article edited this wrong. Okay.
Yeah, it must have been edited wrong.
Okay, yeah. Obviously, talent is going to get cut as well, and they are laying off 7 employees as of today. I'm sure more fat trimming will be coming. Mm-hmm. They probably just don't want a bloodbath all at once. We are going to see this get whittled down. It's Ethan Van Sciver. So
here's the situation that the comic book artists are in. What do? They go to Marvel. Marvel's doing the same thing. They're getting rid of talent. So you're not going to get in over at Marvel. Start looking at IDW. I don't know. These people are going to be out of work one way or the other. They need to get proactive and start thinking about what they're going to do. And more are starting to do their own comic lines. So Uncle Ethan was also talking about, I don't know who a lot of these newer artists are, but I guess somebody that used to be on, one of the mainline titles quit and started his own Kickstart for super gay superhero, very left wing, very whatever. Mm-hmm. And it's been very well received, even by people that aren't into that particular topic, who have gone. There was one comment on his Kickstart that said, I have absolutely no interest in your gay superhero, but I came to support your Kickstart because I want to support you doing what you want to do and leaving my characters alone. And instead of getting, all SJW hate the fans, he came back and said, I super appreciate your support. I would very much prefer to be working on my own title than on anyone else. Thank you for your support. And Uncle Ethan commented on this and saying, sounds like somebody's learning. This is exactly how I would respond to somebody. You don't spit in the face of somebody who just gave you money, even if they're being insulting. Meet them where they are. And so, welcome to Comicsgate, he said to this guy, because that's what it's about. If you're an artist and you've been left behind by the industry, you have 2 choices: either start your own comic book or learn to code. And I mean that very generically. I mean, find another industry, basically.
Oh, you get into trouble saying that certain places, right?
I don't give a crap.
No, I think it was Twitter. They were yelling it because they were saying that.
I don't care. It's your channel.
I think no. What happened with that was that's what people said to.
Yep.
I think people losing their jobs in industry and so learn the code, and then people turned it on the reporters, and then they got angry. Well, that's what you were saying to other people.
Exactly.
It's like.
Now I'm turning it to the comic book industry.
Schooner Tuna says Gina Carano would have made a great live action Mala from Superman the Animated Series. Ooh. Do you know who that is?
Yeah.
That was also what's her name? I think not the same, but basically remember General Zod from the movies. The
oh yeah,
Ursa. I think Ursa in that. It was
Earth
weird.
read the movies, and it was something else in the comics, but now they've kind of made it a blended character.
Yeah, I'm not a comic expert, but it was always odd because it was Jok-Sor and Mala on Superman the Animated Series, even though it was basically the General Zod thing again. And then it was General Zod in the movie. And then when I read
Feora was the name of the character in the comics back in the
okay, because they actually used the name Jack-Sor in a book I read called The Last Days of Krypton, which is about the final days of Krypton. And General Jack-Sor was an evil Kryptonian like centuries earlier that got Krypton involved in a war. But he was a past thing. He wasn't General Zod, who was currently in the thing. So it was. But anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, aren't I? Anyway,
no, that's okay. I mean,
but
it's about when the comic stories were good.
Yeah, well, there were a reason people used to read them. I mean, I'll put it this way: I was never as big a comic book reader as I was a consumer of other things, superhero. But I would buy Spider-Man comics every so often, and I always thought they were interesting. The only trouble is it was always a commitment to me. You have to buy the comic, put in the little plastic bag,
Brian Gilmartin, kneel before Zod, General Zod, Superman 2. Yeah, and remember how Kal-El said, no, kneel before Kal-El, and then snapped his neck? Remember that?
No. I don't want to. Oh, no. Oh.
Yep.
Anyway, I think I've already told my Man of Steel story, but no, this is no. I didn't even want to go see that before I even knew what it was going to be like. It was like, I just have a bad feeling about this, and I really don't want to go see it.
Well, look, I mean, it's one thing that I agree with the professor on. If you have a bad feeling about it, don't spend the money.
Yeah.
There's really no reason these days. I mean, it's not like you're going to miss out. It's not like years ago where if you don't go to the theater and see it, you're not going to ever see it. Because you know that once it leaves the theaters, it's going to be available on DVD. It's going to be available for stream. They'll probably play an edited version of it on commercial television. So just wait.
The old days, yes.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you my Blade Runner story with commercial television? I don't think so. I'd never seen Blade Runner. They're showing it on TV, right, for the first time. And I'm a kid, and I'm like, oh, Harrison Ford, I know him. He's Indiana Jones. He's in this movie. I'll watch it. Yeah. And I'm watching it, and they go into the monologue.
Yeah.
And I hear the monologue, and I changed the channel, and it was like a year later before I even bothered watching Blade Runner again.
Really? Oh my gosh!
The monologue, I did not like it. I'm like, no.
You know what? There's two types of people. There's those that really, really love the monologue, and there's the ones that really, really hate it.
I was one of the ones that hated it because when I finally saw the quote unquote director's cut years later on DVD, this I like. When they took all that out. But for some reason, I hated it. Blade Runner discussion another time. Maybe.
See, I go the opposite route because I heard that monologue and I'm like, wow, this is like one of those old-fashioned noir films. But it's not. It's futuristic. I said I see the blend here, and I love that.
That's probably what it was intended to be like. But and the funny because they made a Blade Runner PC game years ago, and they're actually going to re-release it. Very well done, like a point-click adventure type game. And they even got a lot of the actors, not Harrison Ford, because you're playing a different Blade Runner in this, but Sean Young shows up in it. The actor that played Tyrell's in it. And they have the voiceover in this game of the Blade Runner you're playing is doing the voiceover. But it works very well in the game, and it explains a lot of what you're doing and what you're supposed to be doing, and you're trying to solve a crime, basically, in the Blade Runner universe.
And that speaks to the medium, and it speaks to the method of storytelling, right? I mean, I got out of it, they're going for noir. Well, noir has a storytelling method, and just the fact that you have the main character doing a narration, that tells you up front that this is somebody telling the story from their point of view, and they're probably going to survive at the end of this movie because they have to be around to tell the story. Now there've been different takes on that have subverted expectations, but by and large, that's kind of what you're broadcasting to your audience. If you don't have that, it's a different feel and it's a different method of storytelling. Nothing wrong with that, but you need to be aware of that. In a video game, it works really, really well. You know, that whole pulls you into it, tells the narration, so yeah.
It's considered the voiceover. It's considered a a kind of a taboo to do it in film. Though I have seen movies where it works. Shawshank Redemption, it worked very well. The voiceover,
Yeah.
like the Morgan Freeman voiceover in that movie. But Scooter Tuna says, I agree. I would support an independent artist doing their own thing as well. Even if I do not support what they do, at least they are doing something they want to do. Okay.
Yeah. Now, the downside, the possible danger there is that it's kind of like paying off a terrorist organization not to do terrorism, right? But at the same time, if there is a good faith there, it's not really my thing. But let me support you doing your thing. That's fine. Some of these people, though, they've lost any goodwill because of what they've done to our beloved characters. But we're probably getting way too far into the weeds on this.
Well, it's okay. Well, I'll take you out of the weeds. We have another story.
Yep.
Walter Hamada managing movie superheroes is about to get a lot more complicated. It wasn't complicated.
Oh. This is you hear these comments, you hear what he has to say, and you have to shake your head and go, bless his heart. It's like, congratulations, you're starting to figure it out. I mean, I've heard of slow, but that's really slow.
Oh, is this from the NewYorkTimes.com? Okay, want me to read you what I got?
Yep,
okay.
Go ahead.
If you thought there was a glut of superheroes before, just wait. To make all the storylines work, DC Films will introduce movie audiences to a comics concept known as the multiverse. Parallel worlds where different versions of the same character exist simultaneously. Coming up, for instance, Warner Brothers will have 2 different film sagas involving Batman, played by 2 different actors, running at the same time.
So we've
ahead.
basically been talking about these concepts in the past. And for fans, which I think most of us are, this is not new to us. Multiverse, DC Comics especially, no big shocker there. We understand it. We know how that goes. But the general audience kind of having a bit of a problem with it. I mean, if they go and they say, wait a minute, this kind of doesn't jive with the other Batman. Oh, is this like Spider-Man where now so-and-so's not playing Spider-Man anymore? This is a whole different Spider-Man. This has nothing to do with that. I don't know. I'm lost. This is the problem. You don't have that synergy anymore. You lose what I was saying before about your fans and the general audience, and you kind of can't please both of them at the same time. Just try to get as many normies as possible, but you really have to write to the fans if you want to maintain a franchise. It's kind of the same thing here, but now it's even worse because you're already wading into an area that the fans are kind of frustrated and tired about, that the comic book writers knew back in the 80s. That's what Crisis on Infinite Earths was all about. Let's just simplify all this. Let's get away from this multiverse concept. And everything was going really well, and they decided, no, let's piss all over this and go back to what we had problems with in the past, and now we're back where we started, and we can't do it again now. And here we go. So, yeah, I don't even know what to say about this, but one thing that I do have to say, though,
I'm going to give you his quote.
Well, why don't you go ahead and do that? I need to step away for a minute. I'm sorry to do this to you, man. I know it breaks the dynamic.
What?
I know. I'm sorry, but
I'll
just be a minute. You monologue for a little while.
I'll be back. Monologue for a little while. Hello, chat. How is everybody tonight? Oh, that's terrible. Okay. Here we go. Back to the drawing board. You shouldn't use a multiverse as a concept unless it's integral to your storytelling and themes. And even then, it doesn't work for long. Spider-Verse made it work for one film. I need to catch that. I kind of roll my eyes at the whole multiverse concept. I did really enjoy, though, the animated Justice League Crisis on Two Earths. I thought that was very well done. That was the DC animated movie, so maybe it was well done Into the Spider-Verse as well. But generally, like, I think they started doing that on back when I still watched CW shows. I think they did that they started doing that on The Flash during that one season. but I don't know. And I think you said, but I'm not sure it can be sustained for more than 2. Running parallel franchises is even sillier. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not even sure if I have a problem with having like alternate Earths. I have a trouble when it's like 100, you know? I mean, one of my favorite television shows of all time is Fringe, and not to spoil it, but, well, I think I just did. There's another alternate Earth on that show. And, you know, everyone has, like, some of the characters on there have doppelgangers on the other side. It's a very interesting science fiction series, but yeah, I don't know. I think this is their excuse of saying we want to figure out which Batman series is working and which one isn't working. Because it's possible the Robert Pattinson Batman movie will be good. I don't know that it will be.
I'm not holding
I don't know. No?
Nope.
You saying no? Okay, we'll have more on that next week. There's stuff coming out about that, but we have too much stuff to cover tonight. But yeah, I was just saying I think this is more of an excuse for them to see which Batman series does well and which one doesn't.
Yeah, and let's face it. I mean, when you get right down to it, they've effed up their DC universe, you know, movie universe so badly that it is kind of at the point where it's like, you know what, let's just throw everything at the wall, see what sticks, and then build on that. I think that's fair enough, but this trying to they don't have the talent and the elegance to weave a complicated tapestry involving a multiverse. Okay, I'm not really even sure that Marvel Studios does anymore. They did a great job leading up to Endgame, and it started falling apart, and they really should just stop right now. But now they're going for a whole multiverse, and it's going to get bad. DC can't even manage a simple, straightforward continuity, let alone dealing with a multiverse.
Yeah, they were having a lot of problems. Well, there's not even continuity with the new Wonder Woman 84 movie.
No, even within their own 2 movies.
People made a point that I never donned the costume again until Batman versus Superman. That was the impression I got. And I thought that was a lot of wasted potential because they could have kept doing Wonder Woman movies through the decades, you know?
Yeah.
Like they could have done a World War II movie with her in it, you know? They could have done a bunch with Wonder Woman, and then they just said, nope, didn't put the costume on until...
And we didn't mention this when we were talking about Wonder Woman, but people pointed out that considering this took place in the 80s, where was the 80s in this movie? You know, they didn't have an awesome 80s soundtrack. The styles that they were showing were all wrong, and it was really it looked like it was written by people in the 80s, you know, because if you watch like Beverly Hills Cop, you know, the people in the parachute pants were the ones that Eddie Murphy was looking at and laughing at.
Exactly.
Because people didn't really dress like that, you know?
Yeah. I never saw anyone with parachute pants. Maybe like one kid in school at a party would wear them, and then like we'd never see them again or something like that. It's like,
yeah, they were usually the ones that got laughed at because they were trying to emulate, I don't know, like MC Hammer and stuff. But they were performers. They didn't dress like that either. They dressed like that in a video. You know, they didn't go out in public like that.
Oh, I miss MC Hammer.
Yeah. Right?
There was stuff in the 80s. 80s are an odd decade. There's stuff I love about the 80s and stuff I hate about the 80s. But
and so the comparison becomes, you know, look at Wonder Woman 1984 and then look at Stranger Things. Stranger Things gets it right. Wonder Woman got nothing right. Nothing at all right. You know,
yeah.
But that aside, that 80s thing aside, they missed a whole lot. Okay. They missed, you know, she had her story with World War I, right? She leaves and comes back in the 80s, middle of the Cold War. Okay. There should have been a really good Cold War story there, right?
Oh, but my goodness.
She's missed World War II. She's missed Vietnam, Korea. You know,
I forgot the Cold. Yes, the Cold War was huge.
You missed your opportunity to build on what you did with your first movie. And now it's just some stupid, you know, monkey's paw story and pining for your boyfriend. Why did that have to take place in the 80s? That could have taken place at any time. I don't know.
Yeah, they said, why didn't they just set it in modern times? It would have made more sense. I want to make a point though. Stranger Things, season 3 went a little overboard though. That was my issue with Stranger Things. The first 2 were fine, but then you're not going to have Russians running around with Russian accents in the 80s.
I get that. I get that. Yeah. But even at its, what I'm saying is that
it's
even
better,
at its
still
worst,
better than Wonder Woman 84 with its 80s references. Yes, I understand.
Even at its worst, it's still doing better.
I can get that. Yeah. New Coke, and it did allow us to try New Coke again, so that was interesting.
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh, there were Stranger Things. At least has all the tie-ins. They had the Coke thing. That wasn't there some Nike or something tie-in too.
There was all sorts of things. Yeah,
and then the Dungeons and Dragons tie-in with the Demogorgon miniature and stuff. All kinds of brilliant tie-ins. I haven't seen anything like that for Wonder Woman.
No,
nothing. Because there's nothing in the movie that stands out as being something that they could draw on, And we haven't even talked about the big problem with Wonder Woman and the implied storyline of Steve Trevor inhabiting the body of somebody else. Right?
Oh yes, she defiles another. I don't want to say defiles.
The loss of agency of the non-named body that
I'm gonna get into
Steve
trouble.
Trevor was inhabiting, right?
There's so many tasteless jokes I want to make, but it's a clean stream I run here.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, this is one where unfortunately it's gotten so bad. I actually have to side with the SJWs on this.
Oh my goodness!
Right? But am I wrong?
2021. This is yesterday's villains. Or actually, let's not go that far.
I know. I mean, I mean, if we're going to be honest about it, and we're going to, be intellectually honest about it, Wonder Woman has absolutely no problem using another man's body for a carnal relation that he has no agency in. What do we call that? When it's a man doing it to a woman?
It begins with an R.
It begins with an R and it rhymes with grape.
Okay, there you go.
Okay. And that's a problem. It's wrong when it happens to a man just as much as it is to a woman. And the argument is, well, he's a man, so he'd be okay with it. Okay, first off, that's the same as saying, well, but the woman, she enjoyed it. No, it's still grape with an R, okay? But even if he wouldn't have had a problem with it, maybe he would have had a problem with the fact that he can't remember it. So he can feel the punishment, but not commit the sin.
Yeah,
because I'll tell you, that would probably be the biggest. The biggest problem for me is, I'm sorry, I'm a married man, and as attractive as she is, that would not be my choice. So don't use my body without my consent. But if I was a single guy, then I'd say I'd have been okay with it, but I don't get to remember it, so I have a problem with that.
Okay, back to the drawing board. Says his name is handsome guy. Give Mr. Guy his due.
Oh, handsome guy, is that what they're calling him?
Credit? No, I think that was the credit. The credit for the actor that Steve Trevor takes over his body. This is sounding more like an episode of Space 1999. Okay, but anyway, I'm trying to think. What was the other big news? Ray Fisher, right? Should we move on to that?
Yeah. So as long as we're talking about, we were talking about Walter Hamada, Ray Fisher. I don't know if it was a direct response or it's just a coincidence. He's saying that he won't work with Walter Hamada. He's got his own personal problems with him. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah.
This article comes out of Variety.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and put this here, and I want to make a point about this. Let me see. I got some clips from this. If you thought there was no, that's the last thing I just did. Okay, hold on. Okay. Yeah, Justice League star Ray Fisher says he will not work on any film associated with DC Films president Walter Hamada in the wake of Warner Media's investigation into the alleged misconduct on the superhero film set. The announcement appears to effectively end Fisher's brief tenure as the DC superhero cyborg after the release of Zack Snyder's 4-hour director's cut of Justice League on HBO Max in 2021.
Yeah.
And he says, this is a direct quote from Ray Fisher, Walter Hamada is the most dangerous kind of enabler. Fisher tweeted on Wednesday, he lies, and Warner Brothers PR failed September forth hit piece sought to undermine the very real issues of the Justice League investigation. I will not participate in any production associated with him. And my first comment on this, I don't know if you want to chime in, but I have a comment.
Well, first thing I'll say is, good on you, Ray Fisher. You have your convictions, you stand behind them, and you're willing to give up your career for it, because that's exactly what you're doing. You're giving up your career.
My thing is,
nobody gave an F about you before. Nobody gave an F about you as Cyborg. Your character was weak in a crappy movie to begin with. Your only chance to continue working would be to get a third movie deal out of it. But now you've just kind of pissed all over your chances. So congratulations.
Ray Fisher's movie career is finished. That's what I have written down here.
Mm-hmm.
He should have quit after sinking Joss Whedon's career. That's what I've written down. Yeah, because, no, Joss Whedon. Yeah, he's in some. I don't know if he'll be working again anytime soon, but maybe he just should have left it at that. And no, he keeps digging. Walter Hamada is a very important man over at Warner Brothers, because I believe he was the one behind Joker, at least as far as getting the money okayed for it, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we can't do it. We can't make an R-rated movie. And even though it had a small budget, we can't put an R-rated movie on theaters. Yes, you can. And it made a ton of money, and it cost not a lot to make in comparison with the big superhero movies, right?
And look, guys, this is what it comes down to. This is true in Hollywood. This is true in the business world. This is just the way the world works, okay? Just because you don't agree with someone, just because they're wrong and you're right, doesn't mean anything, because power matters. The guys that are in charge, the guys that have the money, the guys that greenlit movies, okay, you have to decide, do you want to work or do you want to be right? And that's fine. If you want to, if you have your convictions and you don't want to work with them, that's fine. You can go flip burgers. If you want to keep making the money you were making and being in the movies and signing autographs and having people love you, then you better kiss ass, because they're the ones that employ you. Or feel free to go out and start your own movie company if you want to do that.
Auditor Dread says, Kryborg says he is done working with Hamada. I think Fisher is done working in Hollywood. Would want to work with him after all this.
And it does kind of sound like the sour grapes, that he knows he's on his way out. Nobody cares about him. Let's, gin up some publicity for myself. It could be that too.
Yeah, I don't know.
This dog whistling stuff is not garnering the attention that it used to, or that people want anymore.
Yeah, I think at this point, I don't know how much Hollywood knows that maybe they need to start doing things a little differently. But, well, actually, that might bring us to the next article we have. Marvel. Okay, here we go. Let me go ahead and...
So while you're bringing it up, I'll read the title. This one is coming from We Got This Covered, the bastions of journalism that they are. Marvel reportedly wants most of the MCU heroes to be female or POCs now. Yeah. Shocker.
Yeah,
this is big breaking news, people. We've only been talking about this for the past, 2 years?
Yeah, part of me wondered, was this article like from a year ago? But no, this was written recently. This is just, Tessa Thompson
now it's no longer us speculating it and talking about what we're seeing and the trends. Now they're literally saying it.
Yeah, Tessa Thompson has already revealed that the future of the MCU is all about diversity and inclusion. An insider, Daniel Richtman, now claims that Kevin Feige is so determined to embrace that change that he wants most of the shared universe's heroes to be played by either women or actors of color moving forward. Of course, Richtman said the same exact thing about Star Wars as recently as a couple of days ago. So it seems that Disney are determined to make a bigger push for diversity than ever before.
And again, how does this work out historically? Of course, we can't learn from history, can we? Heaven forbid we should use the past to gauge what's going to happen in the future. But, those of us that do, what has happened in the past, I would just look no further than the source material. How did the all new, all different Marvel work out when they decided to make the new Hulk Asian and Lady Ironheart, a person of color, gender swapping the character. I mean,
the all new, all different Marvel.
Yeah, the all new, all different Marvel. We've been saying for the past 2 years. That's 2 years. When did Endgame come out?
That was no, that was in 2019, summer of 2019.
Okay, so year and a half, whatever, about 2 years. But we basically said it really looks like that's the route they're going to be going with it, and this was a prediction, and people were saying, "No, you're just making assumptions." Well, everything that comes out, more and more, we're seeing it. So, fine, don't give us credit for it. That's perfectly okay. But those of us that have been paying attention saw this coming a long time ago, and this will work out just about as well as you'd expect.
I have written down, I think it's Twilight for the MCU, and people forget that a large part of what made the MCU such a huge success was Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. And I have here diverse casting, non-diverse casting, question mark on both. What you need is movie stars to play these parts.
Yeah.
And I've said it before, Brie Larson is not a star. Okay.
Well, let me temper that slightly.
I think Chadwick Boseman was a rising star.
Exactly. But you're getting at what I was going to suggest. There is stars and star potential, right?
Yes.
And what it takes isn't so much that as it is talent and personality. Okay. You need to be a good actor. We've said this about other things in the past. Christopher Reeve was not a big star, but he had the talent. He was an excellent actor. Exactly. He understood the vision and he implemented it well. And he became a star, right?
Like even Chris Hemsworth, I hadn't seen him in too much.
Hemsworth, yes. And what was Captain America? Chris Evans. Neither one of them started out as stars when they took those roles, but they potential. They executed them well, and they became stars, and they had the charisma to pull it off. Now, there've been some chinks in that armor. Chris Evans, but you can be as successful as you want to be, or you can go off on your ideologies and throw it all to the winds. But
it was we know what he's been up to, but
or you can leak out America's penis too. I mean, whatever you decide to do in your private life, whatever. But the fact is, people tend to respond a whole lot more to people that have redeemed themselves than those that are actively trying to destroy themselves. Is all I'm saying,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's a big part of the problem. People start believing their own hype and they think who the heck they are, and that doesn't always go well.
Now, it's wrong to disagree with you, like plus size. I do at the Falcon and special guest star Winter Soldier. I think Anthony Mackie can carry a movie, okay? I should know the actor who plays Winter Soldier, shouldn't I?
In fairness, I have not seen the Falcon become, person of color Captain America yet. They're still calling it the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So
I know that gave me a little more hope for it, but we'll see what happens. It's Disney, so we'll see. But Disney doesn't always mess up. Well,
I mean, and let's not get too far off on a tangent, but we were supposed to have the Falcon and the Snowman already. What was it, like in November or something like that?
Okay.
and now, unfortunately, we're starting to see they're putting WandaVision front and center now, and that seems to be entirely because that was something that was originally planned to go. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with their streaming versus release in theaters versus. I don't know what they're planning for their next season. I think there's a little bit of struggle going on there.
Mm-hmm.
But
we'll keep an eye on this as always. Okay. But Disney, if you're interested in working for them, they're hiring a new social media manager for Star Wars. And
Yeah.
I write in my notes, I do not envy
Why did I
anyone
put
with
that
this job.
twice? I'm sorry about that.
What?
It looks like in the notes I put that twice. I don't know why I
It's
did that.
okay. I figured it out. Don't worry
Okay,
about
good.
it. Okay. But yeah, Disney is hiring a social media manager for Star Wars. Anyone want this job? You're welcome to apply.
Well, I know that Star Wars girl has already applied.
She has.
Yes, she has. But
That would
she
be
she
interesting.
said she used to work for Disney previously, so they already had all of her information. But she did apply just for spits and giggles.
Interesting. It'd be funny if she got an interview and she could come back and talk about the interview.
Oh, yeah. Well, she said she doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell of getting the position, but she figured, what the heck, she'll put in
No.
for it because she absolutely is qualified for the job, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is probably just a coincidence. I don't think this, anything more has to be read into it, other than this was announced the same week as Pablo Hidalgo going all Ryan Johnson on social media recently.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm gonna paste this. I don't think I'm gonna have time to read from this article. This is an excellent article from Variety. It basically explains what was going on between Star Wars Theory and Pablo Hidalgo. Good job.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't. I tend to.
Do you
rag
want me
on
to sum it up real quick for those that
Go
might
ahead.
not?
Yeah, go
okay.
ahead.
So as you all know, especially if you heard the pre-show a couple weeks back, I was talking about the Mandalorian, the return of Luke Skywalker. Not necessarily saying that Star Wars is saved, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And a lot of YouTubers have been putting out their cold takes on it, or hot takes, or however you put it, where they videoed themselves as they initially watched the last episode of The Mandalorian and showed their reaction to Luke Skywalker. And they were excited. They were emotional. Some people cried. And Star Wars Theory, who did an incredible fan film about Darth Vader, was one of those who,
Oh, right. I think I did see that.
Yeah. It cost him $10,000 of his own money that he was setting aside to buy a house. He just, as part of a passion project, decided to put that money into a fan film that he could never actually profit off of because of the nature of fan films. That's how big a fan he is. He's got over 1 million subscribers. Okay. So he garners a lot of fans, in the Star Wars community, follow him. Okay. So if you say anything against him, you're alienating 1 million YouTube followers, not something that Disney really wants to be doing. He puts out a video of himself where he's getting emotional about Star Wars, and a little bit of backstory on this guy. We all have our stories about how we became fans of Star Wars, with me going back to the 70s and the original release. Okay. His first experience with Return of the Jedi was when he was a 10-year-old kid going through chemotherapy, and he looked to Luke Skywalker and the Jedi and the Force to get him through this very, very difficult time for a 10-year-old. And when he would be getting sick and going through chemotherapy, and he had to meditate on what he was going through and try to calm down and try to keep some food down, he would think of himself as a Jedi and what Master Luke would tell him to do.
Right.
Again, this is a 10-year-old boy. Okay. But now he's grown up, and that has become part of who he is. He's not a 10-year-old boy anymore, but that emotion is still with him. Okay. I cannot fault somebody for getting a little teary-eyed when he sees that scene in The Mandalorian. But apparently asshole Hidalgo can, because he tweets out, emotions are not for sharing publicly, or words to that effect. I don't remember exactly what he said. Don't give a crap what he actually said. What an asshole.
Yeah.
That's all I can say.
Emotions are not for sharing.
Emotions are not for sharing.
That's what he said.
So the interwebs just blew up because his 1 million fans get upset about it. Okay. And a lot of people that would otherwise not be what we would consider on our side of the fence in this. The SJWs, again, this is the third time tonight, people, that I'm agreeing with the SJWs. This tells you something.
A certain place is frozen over. Okay.
Exactly. But that's how ridiculous this has gotten. Okay. Because there's people coming out saying, for crying out loud, okay, we have just spent years talking about toxic masculinity and how unfair it is to men that they're not allowed to express their emotions. We have a man expressing his emotions and you're going to shit all over him.
Yeah. What
the hell, man? So, yeah, this was beyond the pale. So he puts out a, in quotes, apology, where he goes, well, I'm sorry if you were offended, but it was really meant to be more about me and self-deprecating and da-da-da-da. It's like bullshit.
People were calling him out on that. They were,
that was
this article goes all through it. It's really worth checking out. They were saying that, hold on, let me see if I can read it to you. Hidalgo did not address placing the offended tweet as a banner over his account, but a source close to him says he did so briefly, not out of malice, but after people began asking his private followers for screenshots of the deleted tweet. Okay. Yeah. The damage, meanwhile, had been done by the time Hidalgo apologized. Two's YouTube reaction video about Hidalgo's tweet, in which Two's discusses how much Luke Skywalker had helped him when he battled cancer, had already amassed 500,000 views and was trending on Twitter.
Yep.
Okay.
And you know, it's like, and finally, you know, after all the BS that we went through with Captain Manhater and all the other, the Ryan Johnsons and all the other BS that we've gotten from these assholes over there at Disney corporate is finally saying, okay, enough is enough. And they step in, and that apology would not be there except for Disney coming and saying, you need to do this. You need to try and fix this. Because and I know I can speak to this because in an interview that Star Wars Theory did with Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers and Drunk 3PO, he said, yeah, I got a phone call, both a personal phone call directly from Pablo Hidalgo and a representative of Lucasfilm, both of them wanting to apologize to me personally. He said, and I refused. I wouldn't take their call. And I don't blame him. He's like, you do this to me publicly, you apologize to me publicly. Well, of course, Disney is not going to, a representative of Disney is not going to apologize to anyone publicly. But they're the ones behind making Pablo Hidalgo apologize.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I like back to Gerard. What they don't understand is that people like Hidalgo hate fans. Okay, yeah, the SJW fans. Yeah, people like Hidalgo do hate fans. They don't hate whatever the buzzword of the day is. They just have contempt for people who aren't in Hollywood. I'm thinking a lot of this is coming to light now.
Here's the ridiculous. This is where this has gone beyond the pale. When it was Ryan Johnson doing this, he was hating on the people that hated what he did. Okay, so fine. You want to retaliate against people that don't like what you've done. Fine. This is somebody who's actually expressing love and appreciation for something that Disney Lucasfilm did. And a representative of Lucasfilm is coming out and pissing on him for it. That is the most stupid, ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Someone gives you a positive review and you tell them to F off? What the hell is wrong with you now?
Yeah. You sound angry, Troy.
This kind of stuff really does get me angry. And this is why I'm saying this is the kind of stuff that's bringing the fandom together. Whether you like Ryan Johnson or you like Kathleen Kennedy or you like The Mandalorian and Jon Favreau, or you hate all of it, but you're a Star Wars fan. Everyone is coming together on this.
One thing I thought was interesting about this article is that, and I have noticed this too, even by some left-leaning people I know, I think there's becoming a growing acknowledgement that the sequel trilogy wasn't that good. I think it's taken a while for it to hit. I mean, of course, we've understood this for a while, but now I think even Variety is admitting that these aren't well received. These aren't well received. Okay. And now people are liking The Mandalorian. And I know there's some people that, never trust Disney again. That's fine. And then there are other people that think, well, we can give this a shot. And from what I've heard, it's been well received by the people who've watched it. So, and my point is that, but for this to happen now, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know how people like this keep their jobs.
Well, here's the problem. Here's who Pablo Hidalgo is. Okay. Yeah. So you were just talking about the sequel trilogy, and you were talking about, how people don't like it. He was the guy who was in charge of continuity, in quotes, continuity for So when somebody was like, is this how the Force works? Is this, what such and such character would do? How was this handled in the EU? Blah, 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 blah. He was the go-to guy. He knew his stuff. Okay. But he's an arrogant ass. Okay. In his knowledge. Okay. And he also sets himself up as, I'm the one who's going to decide what it is going forward. Well, that's just great. So this is the same guy who signed off on the Holdo maneuver that basically breaks canon for how hyperspace and lightspeed works in Star Wars, and any problems that you have with how the Force works and, Rey being the bestest ever and all this kind of stuff. Well, he's the one who's pretty much allowed for that to happen, So after this, when his, little tirade went out there, he puts out his apology. That's a non-apology. I went and I tweeted back to him. I said, good for you, Pablo. Congratulations. You stick by this. And I look forward to your work on the upcoming Rian Johnson trilogy. Because that's really, his career is pretty much over. Anybody who had anything to do with that era of Star Wars is out of Star Wars. I mean, they're all in name only, right? I mean, Kathleen Kennedy's still nominally in charge, and what's her name? I forget her name, but Ms. Me Too. What's her? You know what I mean? Weinstein's secretary.
Oh, I don't know, the one who's in charge of the Acolyte, though, right?
Yeah, they're all nominally doing stuff, but if it ever happens, it's going to be as big a train wreck as the sequel trilogy. So Hidalgo has to know he's pretty much out of work, and I'm pretty sure Disney has been like, yeah, we're going to be going a different route. Favreau and Filoni are just fine. We don't need you anymore. And he closed down his Twitter account, and he opened it under a new name, whatever his studio name is, and he's got himself listed as retired. So it's like something must have happened there. He pretty much knows he's pretty much done with Disney, I think.
Yeah. AutoDread says, I know the Rian Johnson trilogy is kaput, but do you think Disney will say that publicly?
I don't think they'll ever say it publicly. Just like they won't apologize to somebody publicly.
In 30 years, they may say it.
No, because in 30 years, they won't have to, right? In 30 years, they'll have completely overwritten it, and they'll have tacitly said it. That's the best you can hope for.
I'm still waiting for the promised Tron 3, but they haven't canceled it, right? No. Anyway, but
that's what's happening with that.
This was a big story though this week. Look, it's
actually, I would even have to argue it's probably the biggest story going there.
Wait, got Doctor Who though.
Well, yeah, I mean, in this area of fandom, yeah, you're right. It was emotions are not for sharing, and some of the responses, I wish this was his response. I wish to clarify that most of my post that emotions are not to be shared was sarcastic self-mockery and was certainly not intended to be hurtful to anyone. And I am deeply sorry that it was. As a lifelong fan, I appreciate fans expressing how they feel. It's what being a fan is all about. And you don't have to read too far into it to know that, yeah, that's not what you said. It doesn't really work. But then somebody retweeted a tweet of his from back in October of 2019 where he says, it's always been shitty, but there's been an enclave of scientists covering new strata of shitty hitherto unseen. His response to basically what fandom is, and someone retweeted that saying, so when do we get an apology for these? And then it lists that one and so many others that he has said out there. This account has too many followers. If I nullified it and restarted it locked down, but reached out to some of you to follow, would that be stupid? And he's got like, what do they call it? A vote, of what he should do with his account. It's like, you're just a self-entitled jerk, and you've always been shitting on the fans. And now you're apologizing for this? Really? I've got this retweet has a screen capture of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 of 20. And that's just as many as I could fit in my screen capture of it, of all these tweets that he's done at fans that are basically Ryan Johnson-esque levels of trolling bull. It's like, Lucasfilm's Pablo Hidalgo called Star Wars fans shitty assholes and shitheads, then locked his account. He's been retweeting a social justice war. He's been retweeting a SJW that calls Star Wars fans racist, sexist, incels, misogynists, hate groups. Good luck explaining this when episode 9 flops at the box office. This is from months ago.
Gotcha.
This was before episode 9 flopped. And someone retweets that and says, when are we getting an apology for this stuff? He's a piece of crap, who doesn't deserve the position he's in. And people are starting to realize it. You can't continue to treat people this way. Especially
at Disney. I mean, I know when you go to work for the parks, you get trained. You have to treat the you have to treat the customers right. Okay. You have to be very careful how you talk to people in the parks. I know that much, at least, from what I've heard.
Yeah. Utter dread. I'm not saying that he was let go. I'm saying that he listed himself as retired. There's been no official notification of anything that's happened between him and Disney, but it sounds like something happened. There's definitely some sour grapes going on. He's definitely gotten his balls handed to him by Disney.
Okay.
What that means for him going forward, I have no clue. None at all.
We're going to find out.
Yes.
So, want to do the final thing of tonight, Doctor Who?
Are we doing Doctor Who or are we doing the other one?
We're not going to do. We'll wait on Fantasy Island news. Okay, I know everybody's waiting with bated breath, but that'll wait till next week. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Something to talk about. Anyway. Okay. So
they released this as though it's some kind of huge news, but we've known this, and anybody who's been following, geek news knows that Bradley Walsh and Tossin Cole are leaving Doctor Who. I don't know if the holiday special was their exit or not, because I didn't see it. I won't be watching it. But Bradley Walsh is too talented an actor who has too much history for this to be, his all and everything and career, way to go out on his career. So he's going on to something else. I don't know what Tossin Cole is going on to, but he seems like he's a perfectly capable actor. I'm sure he'll land on his feet just fine. But, back when I originally mentioned this about 6 months ago, I said they'll land on their feet and they're probably better off for it. But boy, everything that I've heard about the holiday special has been very, very negative. Lowest rated episode. Nobody's happy about it. Nobody cares. Yay, Captain Jack came back, and sadly he stole the show. You're not supposed to steal the show from the Doctor and the Doctor's own television program, but it apparently became the Captain Jack show because nobody cares about the Doctor anymore.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I heard these were the two actors on the show that people liked, that people had a better reception to. It was Bradley Walsh and Dawson Cole, and there was other news announced today. Do we want to bring that up?
Yeah, so just 3 hours before we went live, breaking news. It is now official that the first female Doctor played by Jodie Whittaker is no longer going to be played by Jodie Whittaker any longer. She is now leaving the show officially.
Now, I have a question about leaving the show officially. I think I watched the video on this. I think it was a Doomcock video, Lord HD. He was saying that that her agent was telling her, get off the sinking ship now. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's, of course, I guess that's an insider thing.
That could be, and it could also be hyperbole. I don't know. I'll tell you what, if she does have an agent, her agent has probably been telling her that for some time. It would be the best thing for her. You can say what you want about the fans. You can, do your little SJW tweets and whatever, but your agent's job is to pay attention to things like ratings and viewership and what is being said about you in the public circle and advise you based on that. And the only wise advice is, this is not good for your career. Get out.
I suspect now, most Doctors of the recent years, except for Eccleston, they last about 3 seasons. Sure. I know 10 had that weird. That technically wasn't a season when he was doing the specials that one year, but
they've considered it a season.
Okay, well then he had 4 then. Okay, but most of them have only had 3, and I didn't expect Jodie Whittaker to last past 3 because Capaldi didn't last past 3, and neither did Matt Smith. Okay, Matt Smith was actually fairly popular. Of course, he might have wanted to leave on his own accord, but and I keep wondering, is this just her? She's going to do this 8-episode season, and then she's going to regenerate at the end. Is it going to happen in the middle of the season? I'm making a prediction here, and I may be wrong about this. What if they get to the last episode, something happens, she regenerates, and they don't show who the new Doctor is, and then they just keep us guessing for the next couple of years while they decide if they're even going to bother recasting it? What do you think?
What would be a brilliant... Well, so this is probably not going to happen because I just started with this would be brilliant. But yeah, if they were to do that, here's what they should do. Have her go through her begin her regeneration cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then not come back. Kind of do like the end of the Sylvester McCoy era. They don't cancel it. They just never renew it. And we go for years waiting for them to decide what they're going to do next.
At this point, the only way they could save Doctor Who would be with a hard reboot, and I don't even know if I'm interested in that. I think they've done so much.
Yeah, but keep in mind,
so much damage.
Timey-wimey, there's a way to hard reboot it without literally hard
She's
reboot.
Not even a Time Lord anymore,
but
or a Gallifreyan.
There's so many bullcrap ways that they could, insert a storyline and say, yeah, this is what she was told. This is what she's seen.
Scheme with the Valeyard in the Matrix or something.
But this is all, Valeyard, the master lied to her, alternate universes, timelines. There's all kinds of things that they could do.
You've been the Ronnie. You've been the Ronnie all along. You weren't the Doctor. Okay.
That would actually be quite ingenious, right?
Just pulled that out of my
There's a chameleon arc in play here, and she's been the Ronnie. The Ronnie didn't know. Ronnie thought she was the Doctor.
She was brainwashed into thinking she was the Doctor as part of a scheme.
Oh, that would be funny. You know what?
And then we're going to have Peter Capaldi come back and do a regeneration.
Exactly. I was just going to say it would be so much better if we got one of the previous Doctors to show up and say, you're not who you think you are. But no, that's shooting for the moon. That's expecting. Yeah, it was all a dream. No, that's again, that would be too good. So it'll never actually happen. For crying out loud, at this point, I wish they would just walk away from it for 10 years and then bring back, if you can't get Russell T Davies back, get someone like him.
Yeah.
Somebody who knows it well enough and is talented enough to do a good story.
You need a heavy hitter to come back and bring this back from the proverbial dead, basically. Oh, hello, Wolf 10. Everyone check out his channel. I think he just did a Blade Trinity thing. Is Matchstick doing something tonight?
Yeah, should we be sending everyone over to a Weeb Watch tonight, or what's going on?
I don't have a link to it, but I believe Matchstick is doing a Weeb Watch tonight. But I'm trying to think what else is going on tonight, though. But yeah, I think anything else to say about Doctor Who?
Nope.
We'll be watching it as it goes along. Maybe not. Okay, but
I keep up on the news so I can share it with you all. But I am not watching these episodes anymore because this is no longer the Doctor. I have. It ended with Capaldi for me.
Wolf 10, are you saying that Matchstick is not doing a Weeb Watch tonight? Okay.
Yeah, let us know.
Because we can do the Fantasy Island.
I was going to say, Boomer, if you want to go on and do the Fantasy Island bit, we can get that in.
Okay, he didn't contact Wolf. He might not be doing it. Maybe it's because it's right after New Year's.
Okay, that's fine.
I didn't take any Sundays off. We've been here. I kept thinking, there's going to be nothing to talk about. We're going to have a nice breezy. No, there's news. There's always
all
bad
news came out within 3 days of our last show. That was the best part of it. I'm like, oh, well, we'll see. Maybe we'll do a year-end retrospective. Well, let's see what we have. Literally, the next day, I'm rattling off, articles that I've seen. And he's like, wow, you've been busy.
Yeah, I know. I said that. We even had more stuff we could have covered tonight. I was like, we'll save it for next week because I know there's stuff going on the Batman set. Apparently, Daniel sent me an article about that. So, Fantasy Island reboot ordered straight to series from Fox, the Fixed Team. Yes, are we excited?
I don't know how excited were we about every other subsequent reboot attempt at Fantasy Island.
Well, I did see the Blumhouse Fantasy Island movie. It's so close to excruciating. I don't know how he gets these things made. I guess because they're cheap. No. Yeah. I didn't pay for it. I got it off from the public library. But anyway.
Was what was that, Michael Pena who played
it was, the guy from Ant-Man. He's in the Ant-Man was I like him, but he would not have been my choice for Mr. Rourke. And it's just,
I don't know what even the tone of that was, but go ahead.
It's a horror light movie. Basically, one of the person's wish on the island was to get revenge on the other people getting wishes on the island. Okay. And so it had kind of a horror theme to it. They were trying to do a horror movie out of Fantasy Island, but they couldn't go so far. It was PG-13 because it's still Fantasy Island. Yeah.
And here's the other thing too. And this is what I was going to say. Michael Pena, I don't know what his acting chops are. But I could see him as Mr. Rourke if they wanted to do a good straight up, Fantasy Island story, right? Mm-hmm. But I get the impression that this was not, the same character, at least not in spirit. No more so than what's his name? McDowell was in the rebooted TV series from the 90s. You don't even remember.
That didn't last long, did it?
It did not.
Okay.
Where Tattoo was a tall, beautiful woman.
Hey, there are worse things.
Which basically sounds like Magnum PI to me. I mean, it's like,
okay. Let's not get. In fact, I'm wondering, is this show in the Magnum PI universe? Will they connect it somehow? Actually, no, they can't because it's Fantasy Island. We don't deal with science. We don't deal with fantasy. Okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this. I was originally down on this idea, but maybe this show could work in modern times, considering how awful year we've had. Because if you watch the old show, it's a very light show. It's about like happy. It's kind of a happy show, or at least you know what I mean.
Let's kind of compartmentalize that. Do you remember the original pilot?
A Fantasy Island?
Yeah.
No, what happened? Was there a murder?
The tone was very different. Okay. It became much lighter when it became a TV series. And as the show went, Mr. Rourke became more and more of kind of like an Obi-Wan type of character, the wise, teach them a lesson type character. Whereas in the original pilot, he was much more ominous and less grandfatherly. Go back and watch it. He comes off almost villainous.
Interesting. Well, maybe that's what they were trying to go for with the Blumhouse movie then.
Maybe. And when you were describing that, I was like, that might be where they were going with it. But there's a problem with that. That's the same kind of logic as, well, Superman and Batman killed people back in the original Golden Age. Yeah, but that's not the character they became. And that's not the characters we know or anyone wants to see anymore. There's a reason they don't anymore.
Yeah, things get molded over time. Yeah. It's like if you watch some of the early Star Trek episodes, Spock is smiling, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly. That's exactly right. And then they try to capitalize on that in Discovery. And it's like, no. You got to understand that the cage was never actually really released. Okay. And it kind of got retconned. So don't hang your hat on that. I mean, that's like saying that human beings evolved from apes. So if you ever see someone, throwing their poop and digging nits out of people's hair, that's perfectly okay. No. Our society has developed from, when we lived in trees, we don't go back to that and justify
it. Except on Star Trek when they revert back in that one episode.
Yeah, then we have cornrows. Exactly. But it's the same thing. I would say that's a poor argument for why you go back to Mr. Rourke being the ominous villainous type character. But yeah, I do recommend it might even, I don't know, it may even be available on YouTube, but somewhere out there must be an option for you to watch the original.
They have a lot of the old episodes on YouTube somewhere. I was watching them for just to see how it was different from that Blumhouse movie. I was like, this, I actually can see why people watch this show, because it is kind of just, I mean, I know it's kind of kitschy, but
one of the things that was great about it was this anthology show, right? Where you had like 2, maybe 3 storylines going on in parallel. And every now and again, they would merge at the end and you would find out that they were actually related, and that's one of those good subversions of expectation, right?
Yeah.
Find out that they were related. That's kind of cool. It also sounds like something that the Blumhouse story was trying to go for in a very ham-fisted kind of way.
I don't know. I can't.
But from reading this article, what is your expectation of the plan for this new series?
Here is what I think. Okay, I have no expectation for this. But I will say, if they're trying just to make a light series that can make the viewer feel good, maybe that might be nice for a change on television. I mean, granted, I know sometimes we poke a little fun at Al for watching the Hallmark movies, but I kind of am understanding now why people watch these things, just because sometimes if you're just viewing negative stuff all the time, I mean, a little escapism isn't bad, and it would be interesting if they could. I don't know. It may end up being a schlock fest. Okay,
well,
but
and when you told me about this, my first thought was, oh, great, they're going to take the Blumhouse thing and make a series.
No, that's not what this is. That's what I thought too. Yeah,
and if it's not that, then I have to back up and consider if they literally are just trying to reboot the TV series. That might not be a bad thing, because I have said there's a lot of 70s and 80s TV that would benefit from a modern day reboot. I mean, you look at Battlestar Galactica, that's the example that so many people point to and say, yeah, that worked really well. I wanted to see them do the same thing with Buck Rogers. We haven't seen it yet, but it would be nice. Another one that would have been good if it had been done well would have been a reboot of Knight Rider, but that has not materialized either.
I think they tried that, and I don't know if it got canceled. I was thinking Airwolf though would be an interesting reboot. What do you think, Airwolf?
If they wanted to go really gritty with it, like modern TV style, could work. Yeah, because it's the kind of thing that was a little bit schlocky in the past, but if you ground it pretty. I don't mean to be, ironic with that phraseology, but, grounded in some sort of reality, it could be a really good story. And I think Fantasy Island, definitely, it's got fantasy right in the title, so you got to expect it to be a light fantasy type of thing.
We're
You're
forgetting. I was just saying, we're forgetting what the big draw of it though was celebrities, the celebrity guest stars each week, right?
Yeah, but you don't want to hang your hat on that because that does not age well. Okay, it doesn't, because when you look back at Fantasy Island, it was they had good enough stories that you remember the stories more than the actors. But Love Boat is remembered as the has-been actor show, and it does not age well. But I mean, supernatural stories are doing really well, and have their place. And I gotta say, who was it? Was it Back to the Drawing Board who was talking about? Oh no, he did say Dark and Gritty has had a huge market share for years. Something different would be nice. So here's the thing: Dark and Gritty does not have to mean realism does not have to be dark and gritty, right? So something like Airwolf could be more based in a kind of realistic storyline without being dark and gritty, is what I'm getting at. But it was Auditor Dread who had said, wasn't the devil in one episode of Fantasy Island? I seem to remember that. And if I remember it correctly, and this is a very fuzzy memory, I think, Mr. Rourke kind of was like, I guess like a Dr. Fate type of,
interesting,
protect the world from the evil one type.
So he's using like alchemy to keep the devil sealed.
Exactly, that kind of a thing. You didn't know if he was a representative of heaven or if he was, like a Dr. Fate kind of, I don't know, John Constantine type of character. And it was all best to keep him ambiguous. You didn't want to know too much about who he was, how he got his abilities. I mean, if you delve too much into that, you can kind of ruin it. But that was part of the mystery of it. And that was, you could do some really good stuff with that.
Well, I always got the impression, too, that on the show, though, that the fantasies, even though, this person's getting to fulfill their fantasy, but they were intended to make them better people. Okay?
Yeah.
They usually came out better people at the end of the fantasy. Even if it wasn't exactly what they wanted, they usually came out better at the end.
Well, I don't know. Let's pose this to the audience. How well received do you think moral lessons are going to be for modern entertainment? I think the audiences respond to them very well, but I don't think the modern entertainment industry can handle that idea. If they're not preaching at you, then, teaching real moral lessons is not in their wheelhouse.
We'll see what happens. I'm going to keep an eye on this one. I'll probably end up giving it a whirl. It may end up being a well, we'll see, a clusterfuck, as you sometimes say. But Wolf 10 Media says, what about Thunder in Paradise, the Hulk Hogan Superboat show? What is that? Have you seen that, Troy?
I think it was a movie. I think he's referring to it as though it was an episode of Love Boat, but I don't know. Was there meant to be a series, or was it a series? I don't know.
I saw some movie with Hulk Hogan in it when I was young, and I think it did have Christopher Lloyd in it as well. And I think he was an alien.
Oh gosh,
like a bounty hunter. No, I actually enjoyed it when I was a kid. It was funny. It was like I don't know if it was like a more comedic. Like he goes into the grocery store, and the woman says, "You have to squeeze these melons just right to know which are the best ones, right?" And he takes one and he squeezes it, and it blows up in his hand.
Of course.
Yeah, no, because it's Hulk Hogan. It's like I don't remember. Oh man, I do remember that movie when I was a kid, and I did enjoy that. But I am looking forward to the Chris Hemsworth biopic of Hulk Hogan that's in the works, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, I love that Leia Plus Size says she's hearing rumors about Buck Rogers reboot. I think though what you're talking about is they were working on a film that was going to be not based on the TV series. It would be based on the original Buck Rogers Pulp Fiction story, which, to be honest with you, I think that has about as much chance as that what was it? What's his name of Mars that Disney did that sucked?
Oh, John Connor.
got John someone or other of Mars.
I didn't hate that movie, but it wasn't. It had a lot of flaws. Yeah, that was one that they were. I mean, I remember at the time too. I wasn't being harsh on Disney back then because at least they're taking risks. Okay, now granted, maybe this movie wasn't in it flawed, but and it didn't do well at the box office, but at least they're trying something. At some point on this stream, I'm going to go on a Universal Studios rant because they are anemic right now. I don't know what they're doing. Okay, they are the most risk averse movie studio out of it. They have a park named Universal Studios. Do they make movies anymore? Because I'm not seeing any. I don't even know what's coming out from them. Anyway, though,
I will say this about their parks. Apparently, from what I've been hearing, they've been far more successful with their parks in this, difficult pandemic era than Disney has been. So
you know what?
They're kind of capitalizing on the theme park market.
I think one of the problems with Disney in the parks is Disney also has a lot of shows at their parks. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. They're good quality shows, and you can take a break from walking around, sit down, and watch. Watch like a mini version of the Lion King musical, or you'll see like a Finding Nemo show or something. And it's actually good they have these in the parks, and they have professional actors in them too. But it's now they can't do those because of the whole close quarters thing. So that kind of cuts off.
Yeah.
And I think already Universal had more space per park than Disney does anyway. But Disney relied a lot on those shows in those parks, and we did that horror story about them having to shut those shows down and get rid of the actors. Oh, but apparently it was an action series. He and a partner drove a military speedboat to fight crime. I'm gonna look for this series now. I'm curious about that. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't. That one completely flew under my radar. I didn't even know about that.
Oh, Matthew Flynn, thank you. Suburban Commando, Hulk Hogan movie. Yes, I need to hunt for that and see if it's on Blu-ray. Okay, because I don't care. It's part of my childhood. Okay.
Okay.
And I believe Christopher Lloyd was in it as like the straight-laced suburban dad, and I think he gets caught up in shenanigans with Hulk Hogan, who I believe is an alien. I want to say he was an alien bounty hunter, but I could be confusing it with a different movie. But I think my throat's starting to go. Anything else? Do we want to talk about what's going on this week? I believe.
If you want to go through the list really quick, I know Sound Engraver's probably got a show tomorrow evening. We got over on the Bible Geek on Tuesday, A Horse and His Boy book study. Probably got something from Fan Man on Tuesday and Thursday, maybe, I don't know. Wednesday night, do we have soundtracks with Birdman?
We're doing Home Alone because we missed a few weeks ago, so just pretend it's still Christmas, right?
Fair enough. Green Lion Girl's got her
something about Edith so-and-so.
Yeah, the remains of Edith or Edith. I don't know. It's a game. Looks kind of creepy. I didn't get obviously because I have my game night that night. I don't get to see it, but
I keep your streams as I do my own. But
exactly.
I like I've been on them. Yeah, they're good fun.
Okay. Thursday night, Catholic Bible Geek is still Book of John, I think, but he's got his Bible study. And then, like I said, Friday night,
yes.
If Fan Man is doing something, he usually does it earlier in the evening. But I'm planning on doing some sort of live stream on Friday night, 9 Central, 10 Eastern. Don't know if it'll be a rewatch or not, but it's my birthday, and it's one that ends in a 0. And I just would love to have some people to hang out with for my birthday. It's the only way I'm going to be able to celebrate with anyone other than my wife. So if you guys want to come hang out, it'd be awesome if you did.
Definitely.
And then Saturday night, of course, is the rewatch of Batteries Not Included over on Nanette's channel.
Okay, cool. I remember Batteries Not Included. That's another one of these movies I think is a Spielberg movie, but it's not. But his name was attached to it, right?
Yeah, probably because it was. Was it one of the first Amblin films?
I think so. Yeah, and I used to any movie that had Spielberg's name on it, I figured he directed when I was a kid. Oh, cool, Spielberg movie. Like he was just making like 10 movies a year. It's like they all had kind of a quality to them, even if they weren't directed by him, though. So I can say that about them.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just looking real quick. It was produced by No, directed by Matthew Robbins.
Mm-hmm.
Universal Pictures. Oh yeah, Amblin Entertainment, Universal Pictures. Yep. So it was his production company, is what it was. Yeah.
Leia Plus Size says, I have a birthday coming up with a 0 also, so you're not alone.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Let's see. I think you're over 30, so I'm going to guess 40, but you certainly don't have to answer.
Yes. And Wolf10 says, happy birthday, PaPa Pacelli.
Oh, thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, let me just get through this week, and I'll have made it half a century.
All right, cool.
Believe that?
Half a century. Sounds good. All right. Well, on that note, anything else to add?
Nope. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for putting up with my ranting tonight. I think I got a little hotter than usual, but you know.
Okay. Well, I with this Hidalgo guy, I kind of understand. So okay. Anyway,
yeah,
I'll talk to you later. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll talk to y'all. I'll talk to you after the stream.
Yeah.
But I'll talk to all of you at another stream. Yay! That didn't come off awkward at all. Okay.
Yeah, you might want to work on some sort of a sign off or something.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Have a good one. Okay. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Even have the bell up. No, well, we're just going to skip the bell tonight. Then.
It's up to you. For sure. You do
I'll do it. I'll do the bell.